wanted to give my daughter a better future than what the world had handed. So every day waking up to see this little innocent child, that gave me a drive inside that I have to do something. I can't let it slide. Not because of me, but because of my daughter and her future. So that kept me sane to some extent. So she really was the blessing to that very dark moment. And I'm so glad that I was blessed with her at that particular moment. She came for a purpose. Yeah.
Did you see other mothers? Were there other mothers with their children in there as well? What was that like?
Yeah, and it is very, very difficult for these mothers and their children, from the lack of diapers, the lack of clean flowing water to feed their babies. Think about nutrition. Think about all the milestones that a child needs to, go through. About the lack of color. I mean, the squeezes are so gray and so black, so horrible. About an environment where it's meant to be punitive, and these children, whether it's nutrition, whether it's education, whether it's the environment. When you think about the prison culture, the language, goodness, it was horrible for these mothers and for these children. No flowing water, overcrowded, and all that kind of stuff. So it smells, it stinks, and the first thing that hits you is the stench. And more so when we got locked up with our children, how it could smell. The one little toilet that you use as the bathroom, the toilet, people would clean and utensils here and there. It was very unhygienic. The dignity, it was stripped of that. So it's the living condition, it's the environment, it's the punitive space. That was so shocking. I couldn't believe that people need this. My goodness, and I wondered how we survived. The food, that was horrendous. It's food that I couldn't even feed my dog. And here I was having to take this uncooked beans and, paste made out of cornflour. It was shocking. Yeah, that was quite numbing.
She hoped the appeal would be a route out. As proceedings dragged on, Teresa made the best of prison life. She got to know the other mothers, their struggles and their life stories too. After 8 months of her yearning sentence, she was released for good behaviour. But she was now a former convict, and that affected every part of her life.
So as a convicted criminal, and my affliction is still going on, and so I leave prison, and I'm very hopeful, very, very hopeful, because I've the hardest part of my journey, which is serving that sentence with my daughter. And now, the world is ours for the taking. I'm free. I come out, I'm received warmly by my family. My family has supported me throughout that sentence. They visit me on a very regular basis, kept me in touch with things. But what I didn't foresee was the stigma that was awaiting me. The world never looked at me as Teresa, the lady who went into prison innocent. Unfortunately, I was this ex-con, and the weight of the label of an ex-con is very heavy. Very, very, very heavy. I think I have underestimated how difficult and good the challenges of integrating back into society would be. So I soon came to realize very quickly that I wouldn't get a job. People no longer trusted me. And the depth of the stigma meant that I wouldn't have people around me. So we were pretty much a modern day leper, to the extent extent where even if you had money, you wouldn't rent out a house. As soon as the landlord would find out that you're formerly incarcerated, they would cancel the contract. And a lot more when it comes to the stigmatization. So very soon post-release, I got into depression. However, the women who I had met in prison, would come out and call and be like, Teresa, I'm now out. Would you help? Would you assist? They honestly had nowhere to go to. They had nowhere and no one to go to. And I soon learned that I was lucky that I had a family that received me and cared for me and my child. They didn't have that because a lot of them come from very poor backgrounds and they have no social safety network. So they come out to the very same situation and conditions that took them to prison in the very fast speed.
There's such a shift between you having this kind of mission in life that you've had since you were a young child of wanting to be a banker, really flying very high in that sector, and then coming out of prison and being, as you said, a kind of a social leper in many ways. So did the idea of helping women, of being able to serve a purpose in their life, being able to actually make a difference to their lives, did that give you a renewed sense of purpose?
It did, because I now got to understand the full picture, that the issues were not just while in prison. The challenges got even worse when it comes to reintegration, because there was absolutely nothing on the outside. So my resolve, given the difficulties that I encountered trying to rebuild my life, this resolve now was tightened to now support these women even further. And I would say that it was accelerated challenges of reintegration, that because what happened was there was a lady who I was having time with, and she was serving a 5-year sentence while I was serving a 1-year sentence. So I found her in prison and I left her in prison. And when she got out, after completing her 5-year sentence, she did not survive a year on the outside. Because of the stigma which she couldn't handle, she committed suicide. Yeah, she ended her life. It was too much to bear. I also witnessed another lady lose her child of pneumonia because they would sleep in the streets. They absolutely had nowhere to go. So I truly understood and truly committed to do something. I mean, it was one too many lives to lose. So at that point, there was no way out. I had to do something.
Teresa used the skills from her banking days to set up Clean Start Africa, an organisation that helps former women prisoners. They run programs to help women build careers and find housing after release. Keep in mind, Teresa was doing all of this while still fighting to clear her name.
Having a court case, it's emotionally draining, financially draining, socially draining. I mean, it just takes everything from you. Because I was getting support from my family, I resolved to keep on the fight for justice. And so I was still going to court, but this time around the Court of Appeal, to prove that I had been convicted wrongfully. And about 2.5 years since the point of my conviction, I eventually did get cleared of any wrongdoing and was vindicated. And the judge at the Court of Appeals quashed that sentence and said this was wrong. And I took what the government compensated me with and made peace with the fact that somehow, some way, I would still find my compensation in life with you.
It's a really crude question. Can I ask how much compensation you got?
It was about $60,000 US.
Okay.
Thereabouts.
So a significant amount, but given what you've been through and the fact that you've spent the formative months of your daughter's life and your own life had been in limbo for a long time, it's not a huge amount of money. And you've been for many years now have been
just draw the line. That was the past. Let's get into a loving space, forgiving space, a nurturing space where you can get to thrive. At the very beginning of my journey with the prison system, I was very scared, and more so about how are they going to handle my daughter? Is my daughter going to be safe in this space? I didn't think for a moment there could be other women who had not gotten justice just like myself. But as the months went on, I soon came to realize that, these were my fellow sisters, these were mothers just like myself who either had not gotten justice. There were no harm to myself nor my daughter.
Your life now, and hearing the way you talk now, it seems to me very different to the objectives and to your motivation. Effectively, what you're doing now is a form of social work, it's a form of activism. 5,000 women have been through the program, you've travelled with your work, and you've been to the US, and you are a global petition for a change in laws and for a fairer system inside Kenya. Do you think you would be doing any of this if you hadn't had the experiences that you've had? I mean, was there ever a part of you that wanted to shift into work that was going to have more social impact than banking?
It's a resounding no, because my DNA when I was in the financial sector was very geared towards profit. And to be honest with you, people were not anywhere at the center of that conversation. What drove me was, what profits are we making and what progress, is the bank having as far as the bottom line is concerned. And even though I would see these statistics around very high unemployment rates, very high poverty rates, and a very large number of people not making it to institutions of higher learning, and I would never equate those statistics to people. It actually had a very biased lens, and I thought that, probably these people are lazy, probably they're not working hard, a very negative biased lens. It's only when I got proximate to the people, proximity really helps when it comes to understanding what people are going through. So one of the things that we now do, and I love the work that I do. Honestly speaking, difficult as my journey has been to where we are today, I'm very, very grateful that this is where I am, because then you're transforming lives. You're contributing to a better and a more just world.
That was Teresa Njuoge, founder, chief executive of Kingstar Africa. I think it's fair to say she found her calling. In the years since clearing her name, she's got Kenyan banks and the prison service on board to partner with the organisation to give former women offenders a chance. And the crime that started all of this off, well, no one else has ever been charged. If you've got any feedback on Teresa's story, or in fact anything you've heard on Outlook, do drop us a line. You can email outlook@bbc.com or WhatsApp +44 330 678 2707. And those details are on the homepage. Just search BBC Outlook. For me, Naveen Azar, and the whole Outlook team, thanks for listening. Hello, you're listening to the BBC World Service. I'm Matt Pintus, and this is Witness History. Today, our strip of secluded Mexican wilderness is transformed into one of the most popular holiday destinations in the world. Cancun welcomes more than 20 million tourists to its shores every year. It wasn't always that way. This is the story of the man who helped to build it.
The only way you could get to Cancun is to fly into a little tiny island.
That's Juan Enriquez, who's remembering his first visit to a secret island off the shore of Quintana Roo on the Caribbean coast of Mexico. The year is 1968.
The first time I went, it had 17 inhabitants. A wonderful Mayan man called Baruch, with 16 dogs. It's the sum total of the population of the island.
Juan's father is Antonio Enriquez Sabiño, and it's his job to find the location for the country's next world-beating tourist resort.
Once you land, then you go down to the docks, and there's one looking at there was no beauty. Which means the It's a magical place.
Antonio has been given the go-ahead to transform the island.
First thing they did was to build a government guest house. They built it right in the middle of the beach. And the reason they did that is if you want to let somebody build the end of the world, you have to give them experience like you want. And you have to have something about hosting and passenger for this honeymoon, hosting many leaders, many places. Each get away from that with a lot of this extraordinary stuff.
Antonio Enriquez Sabiño was born in Mexico City, Mexico in 1931. From a young age, he was hungry for success.
His mother was a very young emigre from Cabineo in Ireland, and she met a dashing Mexican soccer player and moved from Cabineo out of Mexico. He was the first person in his family to go to college in a central bank in Mexico Central Bank, and get jobs and bring currency into a very complicated process. Doing that, they decided tourism was the answer through all of Mexico's coasts and identified where each of Mexico's future tourism destinations were.
The Mexican federal government needed a solution for the country's faltering economy.
The biggest reason why Cancun was developed is because it was one of the poorest places and most isolated places in Mexico. And it was actually not even a state in in terms of population, but it was one of the most beautiful places on earth. So it was a combination of raising people out of poverty, close to various markets, and some of the most beautiful beaches anywhere on the planet.
The development of Cancun was approved in 1969, and Antonio would be the man on the ground, masterminding the island's transformation.
And had a way of getting things in there. So one of the first things that was built was a very primitive temple that's from an island. It's one hotel in Cancun, which is open at that point. We had discos dancing, and we realized it was quite late, and it was New Year's Eve. Our parents would be very upset if we weren't there for New Year's Eve. So we took a big swag and hung around the corner, and there was some giant dogs that so I asked my friend the music, and he jumps out. 3 seconds later, he's back sitting next to me saying, "Cocodrilo," which means alligator. It was a giant alligator just sitting across the road, so she had using it like no for using.
The name Cancun came from the ancient Mayan language and was interpreted as meaning shape of the serpent or pot of gold. Juan remembers the moment he knew his father's resort was going to be a success.
One of the few tourism folks who take flyers on faraway places was Palmet. Palmet was far more popular and attractive than European audience. And song followed these that had come up. She wrote again. She can come again. But unfortunately, this was rain all day. And so he is just furious. Says, take me back to St. Lawrence Parks immediately. At which point my father has a quiet talk with the pilot. He says, geez, I'm sorry the airplane's not over. Of course, the airplane was not over. It would be otherwise. So, but again, he's filthy. He spends the night in New Mexico. Looks like it's really magical. And my father gets the ammo to ready to go again. Shots falls in that place. That was the first big Import hotel in Denver, and the more successful programs.
With Club Med on board, others followed, and Cancun soon became one of Mexico's top tourist destinations.
Isn't this great? A smart hotel, a swimming pool surrounded by exotic drinks, all the excitement of a holiday under the sun. It's the Mexican resort of Cancun. Never heard of it? Now that's not surprising, because it hasn't been here all that long. Getting on for 17 years ago, there was nothing here except the sea and the sand and the scrub. But what we see...
That BBC presenter might have heard of it in 1987, but today, Cancun is one of the most popular holiday destinations in the world, with more than 30,000 hotel rooms scattered across the island. It's not all positive. The mass expansion of the island has caused huge pollution problems in the area, mainly due to sewage from the hotels. The island has also become a hotbed of criminal activity in Mexico.
He was horrified by some of the stuff that happened. From the very petty to the very serious. There used to be well-paid independent police force. This company was developed as a separate municipality with some services. Authorities decided instead of investing in this new sewage plant, they would invest fancy old hoteliers who build things within X meters of each. That makes the whole place much more vulnerable to earthquakes and infrastructure which you need for that. Sewage and roads and this stuff just gets overwhelmed. I think he was a little sad and a little horrified with that institutions are important for countries. Part of what's magical about going to London, there is a care for the past. There's a care for a certain kind of design in some places. There's something that was involved. Hoping that Mexico gets better.
As for Antonio, after working on Cancun, he went on to become Mexico's Secretary of Tourism, and then the Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization.
He literally built Mexico's tourism. You never asked him his name of the places. He was very self-producing, actually, but embarrassing. Well, there aren't that many people in Mexico who know who he is. One of the tragedies in the country isn't that what you say. These days we tend to celebrate Ralph photos as opposed to people who actually built things. Built things well.
Antonio Enriquez Sabiña died in 2007, aged 76. His son, Juan Enriquez, is a Mexican academic now. He was speaking to me, Matt Clinton, Witness History.
This is the BBC World Service, exploring the arts, culture and music from around the world.
I think it's a film that really benefits from a full audience because you feel the kind of communal catharsis that exists within the film.
I think about society, and writing about society, it's a very important character in the novel.
These images evoke a sense of wonder and resonate in the imagination long after you've seen them.
Arts, music and culture from the BBC World Service. In 30 minutes.
Join me, John Ronson, Things Fell Apart, a show about unexpected human stories from the culture wars. This week, our former actor and model, burned to death and devastated by the death of his brother, has become an important culture war.
This is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station. Welcome to the newsroom with me, Gemma Jordan. President Biden announces a new policy to protect 500,000 undocumented migrants who are married to U.S. citizens from being deported.
We've been married for 18 years. My husband is from Brazil. Unfortunately, though, his undocumented status has prevented him from being able to see his parents back in Brazil. He missed his father's funeral.
Chipmaker Nvidia overtakes Apple and Microsoft to become the world's most valuable company. The chief executive of Paymaker Boeing faces tough questions about the safety of in US senators. Justin Timberlake is charged with driving while intoxicated, and scientists say they've developed a test that can predict Parkinson's disease, for which there's currently no cure, years before symptoms begin.
If we have this test that can predict people at risk of Parkinson's disease, you can identify more, they can go into more trials, the trials can be shorter.
Full after this bulletin of World News.
Hello, I'm David Harper with ABC News. President Biden says he's making the US immigration system less unfair by signing an order that gives hundreds of thousands of undocumented people a path to citizenship. The change protects the spouses of American nationals from deportation as long as they've been in the United States for at least a decade. The White House estimates about 500,000 people will be eligible. The White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the plan was aimed at creating a fairer system.
We want to make sure that we're securing the border. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to do that. And we also want to make sure that we have a fair and just system. On the average, there's some folks who have been here for 23 years. And, when you separate them, it's kind of a cruel thing to do. And these are people who have contributed to our economy, contributed to communities across the country.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin will be officially welcomed to North Korea after night. He was met at the airport by the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Our correspondent China Fenio in Seoul says the two leaders need each other's support.
Each one knows that the other has something that they want. North Korea needs food, it needs fuel, it needs money. It also needs technology that Russia can offer, especially satellite technology after it failed to launch its spy satellite in May. Russia needs to replenish its stockpile as the war in Ukraine goes on. And North Korea can supply that because North Korean weaponry is based on Soviet-era technology, despite the denials by both Pyongyang and Moscow. We know from the United States and even here from South Korea that Russia has used North Korean weapons in Ukraine.
Kazakh opposition figure based in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv has been shot by an unknown gunman near his home. Aidos Sadyrov, who has more than 1 million subscribers on YouTube, was seriously wounded in the attack.
Aidos Sadyrov is a strong critic of the Kazakh president Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, who was granted political asylum in Ukraine in 2014 after he fled his homeland. His wife Natalia, with whom he runs a well-known social media channel called Base, said he had been the victim of an assassination attempt as the couple sat in a parked car. Mr. Sadyakov is reported to be in a serious condition in hospital. He and his wife have been on a wanted list in Kazakhstan since last year on charges of inciting hatred. Officials in Kyiv said an investigation had been launched into the attack.
Chad's President Mohamed Dahir has said killed and military ammunition depot in the capital N'Djamena. Writing on social media yesterday, he said the fire caused human and material damage. He promised to launch an investigation into the cause of the blaze. Government spokesperson says that it caused a series of explosions. World News from BBC. Senators in the United States have repeatedly criticised Boeing's chief executive during the congressional hearing into the plane maker's safety record. David Calhoun faced questions about his multi-million-dollar salary and why he's choosing to retire at the end of the year rather than resign immediately. Mr. Calhoun apologised to the relatives of those killed in 2 crashes involving 737 MAX aircraft. The US Justice Department has accused a network of underground Chinese bankers helping Mexico's powerful Sinaloa cartel to launder more than $50 million in drug money. It has announced charges against 24 people in California. Peter Bowes reports.
The Justice Department says the partnership with the Sinaloa cartel operated out of Los Angeles in China. A prosecutor on the case said together they perpetrated a cycle of destruction in the United States by importing more and more dangerous drugs like fentanyl, and methamphetamine before laundering the proceeds using underground banking groups in China. Drugs result in a large number of US overdoses every year. Washington and Beijing have been coordinating closely with Mexico on the investigation.
A mysterious reflective monolith has appeared on a mountain range in the Nevada desert in the United States, sparking speculation about how it got there. Police confirmed finding a rectangular 3-meter tall structure on a Oregon hiking trail near Las Vegas over the weekend. The shiny prism is similar to other major installations that appeared around the world in 2020. All objects disappeared as quickly as they popped up. One of Mexico's greatest ever players, Willie Mays, has died at age 93. Over 22 seasons, Mays became a huge star thanks to his batting power, lightning speed, and athleticism in the field. Mays was one of the first generation of African Americans who were allowed to compete in Major League Baseball. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama in 2015. BBC News.
You're listening to the newsroom from the BBC World Service with me, Jeanette Jalil. It's the most significant reform to US immigration policy in years. President Joe Biden has announced plans to make it easier for illegal immigrants who are married to Americans to get